Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Trackman 44 here. We're getting ready to butcher, so had a big old rip roaring fire going this morning, and setting up all the stuff for the butcher this weekend, and or the meat cutting this weekend. Lo and behold, I took a look at my flue pipe, and I realized there was just a little bit of a sad problem that had developed with my flue pipe. So I had to let the fire die down, and now we're going to address that problem. You can obviously tell I've got a couple of patches and everything, holding this little adjustable 90 in position. That's because there's just such an intense amount of heat goes up the flue pipe on these guys right here. It's deteriorating my 90, so I had to make sure that it didn't fall apart or anything. Well, this morning, what I happened to see was I saw flames just shooting right up through here, Well, you ain't supposed to see any flames. It's supposed to it's supposed to stay inside the flue pipe. Now, they don't shoot out because there's a negative pressure, so everything is sucking in. I had the dampers all wide open trying to get the fire, fired up and going real good. And son of a gun, I looked up there and seen those flames, and look there. I don't have a flue pipe left. And this deteriorated part of the 90s up here, those actually are broken completely out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and replace this flue pipe. Then we're going to look at the second problem. Now, going up through the combustible surface and out to the roof and everything, I've got a 2100 degree Class A stainless steel insulated and lined flue assembly. And it's completely away from combustible surfaces, everything, it's installed correctly. But getting up there, you don't have to have that dual vent. You can just run single wall thickness pipe, which is what this is right here. It's a 24 gauge galvanized, which you're really supposed to use black pipe like the 90s. Like the 90s is actually a black or a blued pipe. But, I use what I got because it's out here in the shed. It's not doing it commercially or anything like that. But at any rate, my problem is I've only got 3 sections of 24-inch pieces of flue pipe, and I actually need 4. So we're going to do what we can to come up with a way to make our 4th section. So what you got to do is you got to figure the how far around the circumference it is on a 6-inch pipe. So circumference equals pi times diameter. So take 3.14, which is pi, times 6, and that's going to give you 18.84. So that's the actual finished diameter that you need if you don't have a joint. So you have to add whatever you want to make for the joint. I'm going to take a piece of 24 gauge 7-inch pipe and see if I can cut this down into 6-inch pipe. You can obviously see the huge difference there is between a 6-inch and a 7-inch as far as area, total area or air volume that's going to pass through it, or flue gas volume. So what we're going to do is we've got to cut this heavy joint off of there. I'm going to use a mechanical snip. Then we'll have to fold it open and go about the business of making what joints we need to make. Well, that looked pretty easy, didn't it? We're going to fold this thing open, and we're going to lay out and get our flat dimension before we go any farther. Okay, I've decided to go with a roughly a 3/8-inch overlap. We took that dimension that we had, which was 18.84, and we add 0.75 to it because 3/8 and 3/8 is 3/4 of an inch, which is 0.75. So that 18.84 plus 3/4 of an inch is I'm going to call it roughly 19 5/8. That's going to be close enough. So we got it marked right here. We're going to cut off 19 5/8. Then we'll be ready for the folds on the end. Now let me add, there's nothing worse than trying to use 24 gauge galvanized flue pipe. So we decided on a 3/8-inch joint. So we're going to use a 3/8-inch marking part on the scribe and mark this side of this. Turn it over. We're going to mark the other side. We're going to notch those off, just trim them just a little bit. So I went back to the other shed and went ahead and folded a 3/8-inch 180 this way and a 3/8-inch 180 this way. And now when we roll these around, they should interlock. So we'll make a few more passes, continuously tightening up the thumb screws. Do that a few more times, we'll be right back. About 5 passes it took because this is 24 gauge. It's pretty thick stuff. That should be close enough. Okay guys, I'm a little disappointed because this old heavy gauge material, and it was used already anyway. This was on a gas furnace, So it's used and it's work hardened and all that stuff. I wasn't able to get it to seam the way I normally use with these seaming tools right here. Normally, I would set that on this big long anvil, you see over here, and you would run this up and down that seam, and it would actually make a very nice, neat, trim seam joint, and then you would hit it with a center punch in order to latch those together. Well, I wasn't able to use that because the material is too old, is too work hardened, so I had to opt for screwing with these zip-in screws right into that 3/8 overlap. So there's absolutely no problem with it at all, and you can see it goes into the 6" 90, and then of course the original 6" factory piece goes right into the female portion of that pipe there. So it's going to work out just fine for me. You know, you kind of hate to get yourself in a situation like that, but that's the way it works out, you know. You just got to do what you got to do sometimes. I don't want to waste a trip to town just to get a piece of pipe. What the heck, you know. And I got that 7" laying there, so I may as well use that. Tomorrow morning I get out here bright and early, and we'll go ahead and rip that all out. It'll be nice and cool in there. Literally cool in the shop, you know, but the furnace will be nice and cool. I'll be able to rip that out and go ahead and clean the Class A chimney up through the roof and everything, you know, get that all back in perfect condition, and then put the whole new flue pipe in, and we'll be good to go for a few years. Well, I got all the screws out, so it's time to see if we can knock this thing apart without doing a lot of damage. Now I kind of poked my fingers in there and did that little bit of damage there, and then this broke apart right here. But yeah, you can kind of see it's a little bit deteriorated. Probably time to do a replacement, don't you think? Okay, so we're going to go back with the new stuff. So we got this adjustment here about halfway right. We got to put a 45 down here. See what length that is. I think that's less than 24. Measure end to end and add 3 inches, so this 23 inches is what's needed. Like I said, we got to take about 1 inch off of this. So we just use the 1 inch scribe right here and go ahead and mark it. This is nominal, it's all adjustable. Should be 23 inches, 15/16, 22 and 15/16. It's going to be very, very close. I'm going to have to go put wrinkles on the end of this guy right here. This is designed to have the female go inside of this because a lot of times people don't burn their wood quite right, and they get a lot of liquid creosote actually running back down. So a lot of wood-fired manufacturers recommend inversion on the flue joints, whereas normally a gas-fired furnace or a LP fired or a oil burner, the female is the receiving end, or the male end inserts into the female end going that direction, going up the chimney. But on wood-fired appliances, because of that liquid creosote potential and because of burning green wood, some of the manufacturers suggest inverting it so that the liquid creosote rolls down inside the pipe and back into the back end of the fire chamber or the secondary heat exchanger. And that's the way this is set up here, simply because they've got it set up for the male end to go into a female receiver on the back of this. So that tells me they probably insist on that being the case. I don't like doing that at all. I don't ever burn my chimneys like that, you know, or that low a temperature, so I never have that liquid creosote potential. And we'll put wrinkles on this guy right here and make a male to male on this adjustable 90. A point on these adjustable 90s, if you just twist one end of these 90s like this right here, if you just take this, the outside, and turn it 180 degrees from here up to here, you create a 45-degree angle. See how that's created a 45-degree angle? That's by turning just one of these two here. If you turn two of them, that cuts that 45 and a half and gives you a 22.5-degree angle. And then you can do other things with these ones in the middle too. These guys here put wrinkles over here on this end here. I've got several of them that actually mount on the workbench, and you turn a crank and do it, or you can do them by hand. Now, there's also guys that tell me that there's a right way and a wrong way to use these things here. Some guys say, well, you're supposed to put the 2 on the outside and put 3 on the inside, or vice versa. To me, it doesn't really matter. I don't really care one way or another. I've done hundreds and hundreds of both directions. It's whatever works the best for you is what I recommend that you're doing. Again, there'll probably be a comment that actually lets me know for sure that I'm right or wrong right here. So I'm going to go ahead and latch this down just a little bit tighter. The 24 gauge is a little bit tight to squeeze. When you get a few years on you anyway, what happens, you get arthritis so bad in your hand, and even though you might have the strength, it hurts to squeeze quite that much. You guys will figure it out when you get old. I just slip that in there down on the ground. There you go, there's my new flue pipe, 24 gauge. Galvanized, like I said, is not recommended for wood-fired appliances because it does get warm and gives off that noxious fume, you know. It's not that bad out here in my shed, you know, nothing like that. I always got the door open, I got plenty of fresh air coming in, not a big deal. In actuality, you really should not do that, so don't make that a habit of yourself by any means. Now what we got to do is go ahead and screw this in place, and on flue pipes, you should always have 3 screws. You should have a triangulation of screws, because if you put 2 of them in there, no matter where you put them, that fitting can actually flip back and forth. If you do have a flue fire, what will happen, this thing will burn so violently that it'll start moving that back and forth, and you can actually burst or break the joints on your 90s by the movement back and forth of that volatile flue fire. Plus, that flue fire is going to get so hot. If you've got old flue pipe like I had in there before, man, it's going to go through that in no time. You know, so that's points to be concerned about. Now, I got to go ahead and put 3 screws all the way up in through there, finish bracing it, and we're going to build a fire, man. This particular one does not have a secondary heat exchanger. If you look up in top right there, that's nothing more than an extension inside the firebox when you pull the damper back that allows the heat to go directly up the chimney to get your chimney warm really, really, really rapidly. There is no secondary heat exchanger on this one. And if you look, already the shiny galvanizing is warming up, and it's actually changing color. Now, it's not smoking, it's not giving off any noxious fumes or anything, you know, but it definitely is changing color. So guys, as you can see, we're back in the saddle again. We got a fire going, got the blower running. And unfortunately, as you take a look around the shop, I don't know if I've already put the video up, but I've had to move some equipment out of the shop and move in the butchering stuff because we're getting ready to cut up a beef tomorrow. So guys, I was almost completely done setting up the shop whenever I found that issue yesterday, late yesterday afternoon. So I had to rush, hurry up and get that taken care of. And so now what I got to do is go ahead and clean all the tables and everything, you know, and get everything ready for tomorrow morning. So there's a little bit of dust and stuff I kind of stirred up with bringing some different tools and everything in. Not a big deal. I'm used to it. We'll get everything clean and right back in service ready for tomorrow. So hey, hope you all enjoyed that. And this is Tractor Man 44, and I'm out here, guys.